And we're back. I'm Alek Dincoff, voice actor and working from home talent, here with creator and founder of open sourced workplace, Steve Todd. How are you doing today, Steve?
Doing well, like how you doing? You locked up? Are you safe? Are you
I'm
secure?
locked up. I'm in California. We are on a lockdown. Only necessity. The essential services are out and about.
Yeah.
But my day hasn't changed because I work from home every day, just like this. And that's why we're here. We want to talk to you today about how you, if you're stuck at home or will be stuck at home because of what's going on recently, how you can work effectively from home. Because it's not just working from home. That's great. Sitting in your PJs all day could be really fun, but going to work in your PJs isn't always the most fun. It's like, would you go jogging in PJs? No, you change clothes and get in your workout outfit, right? So we're here to help you do just that. Steve, we're looking at articles from workingfromhomeinsider.com. Great resource. Anyone, check it out. There'll be a link in the description. That way you can go and see all the content that's there to help you be as effective as possible during this weeks, however long this lasts. And it starts out by talking about consistent sleeping schedule and having a routine. How important is that, Steve?
Oh, you know me, Alec. I'm big on my sleep. I need my sleep regular. I go to bed at the same time every day. I wake up whenever I want. But what I've noticed though, since I've been in this working from home phase, I go to bed at the same time, but I don't set an alarm, which is great because my body just wakes up whenever it's ready to wake up. I find that I'm actually waking between 3 and 5. I'm usually up at 4 when my alarm used to be set up, but between 3 and 5 is usually when I'm sort of wakey time. But that's good. But it's important to keep whatever it is you do. You keep yourself in a consistent schedule. You know, it's so easy to get sucked in sitting on the sofa watching TV and actually not being productive or not keeping yourself mobile, keeping your brain working. So a consistent sleep schedule. Sleep is one of the key things that allows us to be productive. So continuing with that sleep, getting to bed routine, whatever the time of the day it is that works for yourself, and also getting up with that same routine. You know, I know you're in a very interesting sleep schedule at the moment, given some of the work that you're doing. But
Mm-hmm.
I'm in bed at 9 p.m. every night, and I wake up when I wake up.
Perfect. So for everybody watching, Steve, obviously between 3 and 5, he's an early riser, right? He's a lark. He's getting up. He's going at it. The morning is his, sees the day, all that sort of stuff. Me, I'm a night owl. Always have been. Now, as time has gone on, that's changed more and more, but that's how I naturally, or my sleep naturally reverts to. So I start my day on a normal time. Okay, keep in mind here, things are a little different now because everybody's working from home and we're on a lockdown. But normally I start a little bit later, ease into my day, and then get rid of all my distractions and really dive in. That's my routine. But since everybody's working from home now, if you can, this is something that's worked for me, and it may not work for you. But I work late in the evenings. I'm now waking up way in the evening. I'm talking about PM. I wake up because since I do a lot of audio, I need to be able to record when there aren't distractions. Usually that's during the day. Everybody's at work, everybody's gone, everything's fine. But now everyone's here. Everyone's at home. Neighbors are home. They can't go anywhere. People sometimes feel like they're on vacation during this thing. So if they're playing music, I can't work. So I've switched my schedule to be even more nocturnal. So I'm actually at the end of my day, whereas Steve's at his morning. But that's what's working for me right now. It's not something I would suggest you do all the time. I don't know how third shift people do it. I really take pride in your work because I can't maintain this sleep schedule, but it has helped tremendously. And I think the biggest thing, Steve, you wake up early and I'm working through the night. Big thing, we have no distractions. When you're up that early in the wee hours of the morning or the wee hours of the night, there's nothing that can stop you from working. So really you can dive in and do deep work without those constant interruptions that working from home often creates. So Steve, since you're on a different sleeping schedule than I am, but we've talked a little bit how we get to our day, what else about your morning routine is, I guess, consistent? Because having a morning routine and keeping it helps you be more productive throughout the day.
Oh, for sure. So, excuse me. Um, My mornings are my favorite time of the day. It is, to your point with you were just saying, it's the time when I'm the most productive. But to allow myself to get into that productive state, I allow myself an hour in the morning to wake up. So I get up, I make my coffee, I sit down, I read through my soccer, I read through watch some YouTube channels, and slowly my body wakes up. Slowly it wakes up. And as I said, I give it an hour. And what I find is by the time I usually, from up at 4 by 5 p.m., 5 a.m., I am ready to get on the computer and work on open source workplace and get ready to go. What I typically find is maybe for that last 15 minutes before I get into actually working, I'll maybe put on a productivity YouTube video, or I'll put on some headphones and listen to Brain FM. They have a focused app in there, and it just changes the brainwave. So even if I'm not in that, what would I say, frame of mind to actually be productive, listening to Brain FM Focus actually puts me into the zone to allow me to work.
Yeah.
So you getting up when you get up, your morning routine's probably a late in the day routine for most people. But do you actually do what most people do in the mornings when you get up, or do you get up and have dinner, or how do you do it?
So things are a little, right now, things are way topsy-turvy. And this is not something I'd suggest for everyone to do, but my morning routine currently, since I'm waking up in the evenings, consists of waking up, making food for family, right? I'm a bit of a cook. And then as people are winding down for the evening, I'm waking up, my brain's on. So just right as I crest into, okay, I'm bored, I want something to do, everyone is asleep or everyone's going to sleep. So there's nothing to do but work. So I coast right in. So I don't have to put my brain in the frame of mind, because almost the boredom, it pushes me to do something, and that only thing is work.
Yeah.
Now on a regular sleeping schedule, when I wake up a little later in the morning, I ease into everything. I have to, kind of pump myself up. I try to keep a morning routine. I'm very bad at it. Scheduling is, I'm good with clients or specific meeting times, but chunking sections of my day for certain activities, when I have done it, it works great. But I'm got to be honest, that is something I struggle with still. But if anybody out there is like me, keep at it, because it is worth it. You can really increase your productivity tenfold.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So Steve, as you can see, we're both sitting. Well, I'm sitting at least.
I'm
I
sitting.
think you're sitting. Yeah. Okay. So we're at a desk. We're at a workstation, right? Having a designated spot at home is pretty important when you're trying to be productive. Just like experts say, don't work in bed, right? Kind of keep bed for sleep. So that way, when you get into bed, your body says, oh, bed, it's time for sleep. That way, when you sit at your workstation, oh, work, well, it's time for work. What does your workstation look like? What have you done to kind of chisel out a space in your home to give yourself the room you need to get things done?
I'm fortunate. I have a home where I've created a dedicated office, so I have dedicated space. So I typically work from home 2 days a week, and obviously at the time I'm working from home 24/7 at the moment, which is fine. As I said, I'm fortunate I have a dedicated space, and yes, there's how it's set up, but for me, the biggest emotional and physical aspect of it is it's somewhere where I go to work. And when I'm not in here, I don't feel I have to work when I'm at home. So, for example, in my bedroom's just for sleeping, right? In my office, it's just for working. I have another room that I go into just to relax and do nothing. And then I have the rest of the place where the kitchen and living room and all the rest of it. So, in essence, I have dedicated space. So I'm fortunate in that aspect. Now there's a lot of people that maybe are not quite so fortunate and things have to double up. But what I would say is when it comes to working and working from home, create an environment that when you go to, it's only for work. It could be simply converting, especially these times, your dining room table into an office for whoever is there living with you, be it the kids, be it yourself. Everyone's sitting down working at the same time, and everyone knows when you're sitting there at certain times of the day, you're sitting there to work. I think it's
So
great. I think it's a great thing emotionally. Now I have to think about you being audio engineer and not a voice artist, then you're very dedicated with your space.
Yes. It's been tough. I've lived in multiple places whilst doing voice acting, and the space has changed and developed over time. So I've dealt with the, oh, you don't have space. I've dealt with the, oh, you have designated space just for this. And then I'm currently in a situation where there's a mixed, I'm in a hybrid. So I can definitely say when you have dedicated workspace, it helps tremendously. If you can do it, do it. And if you say, oh no, there's no room, that's not true. Go watch a tiny home video or something like that, where they convert like a bus into a full-size home or something like that, where like you have a panel on the wall, you pull it down, and that's your workstation. So you can do it. You can make something if you really need to. And when you have that designated space, it will increase your productivity. And for me, I have a vocal booth. When I go in, it's recording time. There's nothing to do except record in a booth. It's perfect. But since I'm at a hybrid stage right now, when I come and sit down at the computer that does it all, whether that be, Facebook or all the audio engineering that I do, there is a little bit of a temptation, there's a lot of bit of a temptation to not work. And the days that I do start not now, but the normal days where I try to have a routine, there is always a nudge to say, well, let's do it in a little bit. Or you just finished an assignment or a project or whatever you're working on. Let's take a break, right? Because you're right there in front of it where your break time is. When your break time and your work time are the same space, the pull away from work is a lot stronger. It happens. But when you're at your workstation, this article suggests that we're looking at here, again, it's on Working From Home Insider, proper office furniture and proper equipment. Now, I have to have equipment because my job entails it. I have to have certain things. But Steve, for someone who's not so much like me, what's some equipment that you should have, or the furniture in general?
So, I mean, obviously it depends what everyone's doing when they're working from home, right? But assuming everyone is working on a computer, then, a desk and a chair are the basic elements that are required. And if one is able to get one of those height adjustable, then that's all the better, because then you're able to move between the standing and sitting position, which helps, especially if you're going to be working for long hours in a seated position, or at a desk or at a computer. It's really helpful. So for me, it is all about getting an ergonomic chair. I also have a desk, and I have a very desk which allows me to go up and down, stand and sit while working. And that's why you're like, I don't know if you're standing, I don't know if you're sitting,
Mm-hmm.
as we were chatting. But again, that's whenever you've got a dedicated space. And obviously, whenever you don't have, then you work things around. And again, as I said before, dining room tables, other things can be used and leveraged at this time. But I would, if this is going to be a long-term thing, then ensure you have the right desk and the right chair.
Yeah, my last chair that I bought, it was a mini holiday getting it, because I wore the other chair into the ground. But because I'm sitting here working every
What
day.
we'll do is, I've just recently put on Open Source Workplace a review for chairs under $300. So there's a couple that I recommend. So we'll
Sure.
put a link to that, and other people can check it out if they have the same concern that you have.
All right. As long as it's got lower back support, count me in.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. So obviously you've got the monitor, the computer, the chair you're sitting in. What about maybe a plant or some natural light in your office space?
Yeah, so I have natural light sort of either side of me, and I need to get a plant because this wall looks like so bare. And
I
I
was thinking
think
that when we
plants
got
are
on camera
really, really
today.
nice.
Yeah, are we in the same spot?
I
Like, we
know,
just
right?
don't have anything behind us. But when you're working from home, you got to make do with your space, right? So, and that's one of the beauties, because you folks watching at home, you're not sure what's over here. It's a bookshelf, by the way, but you don't need to include that when you're having a chat with your office workers or your clients or whomever.
You're right. So, and the point of it is, if you have greenery around you, it gives you a feeling of being outdoors. Obviously, the plants release oxygen into the room. And while this is really bare behind me, To my left, I have a window outside where I see greenery. Just over to the right, I have a window where I see greenery and trees and so on and so forth. So for me, my view, although your view of me is terrible, the view for me is brilliant because I'm looking outside, and that's all I'm seeing is greenery. And over there, I have my bookshelf full of my books. So it's like I know what I'm here to do, and I also have the little distraction of seeing natural light and the trees as well.
Of course. Yeah, I unfortunately, with the limited space in this situation, that is something I'm lacking. And I'm very excited to prioritize that in the next living space that I end up in. So I know how important it is. Before this, I called it Planty. Planty was my little desk plant that I got to watch grow and sit next to me. And I had a giant window that showed me the outdoors into the forest, and it was a wonderful setup. Um, I miss it, but
Yeah, you can't underestimate that, you know.
no.
It's you know, we know when everyone's in the office,
Mhm.
the seats by the window are the ones that everybody wants, you know. And
Mhm.
one of the great things with all the modern furniture that's being deployed in offices, you're able to see a lot more of that outside space now. So it's so important, and it makes us feel good, you know. It really
It
does.
means a lot.
Yeah.
People have always talked about that corner office, you know, so it makes sense for people to be driven toward it. But I do want to ask you something. Since we talked about schedule, we talked about sleeping patterns. This article suggests finding out what your most productive hours are, but you need to be awake when everybody else is awake. You're speaking to people all the time, working in an office environment on and off. How does that relate to you? Because how it relates to me is totally different.
Yeah, and I know we talked before about, you know, hours of sleeping and sort of morning routines and all, but this is a little different. And the real distinction here is, as you just sort of alluded to, is when are you, when am I, and when are you watching this their most productive? And how do you ensure that actually you're doing the things that you need to do, the most important, um, the things that need your attention, right? When are you doing those, and are you doing those at the right time of the day? For me, I try to get everything I need to do for the day done by the time I get to the office. So I'm usually getting in the office at 9. So what are the critical things I need to do that I have to have done so that I know I've been productive for the day, no matter what happens during the day. I know the things that I need to do to sort of to that enable me to meet all the expectations and deliverables that I have are done. That means when I go into the office, if other people take my time, then I'm not as concerned about delivering other things. But don't get me wrong, I can go in the office at 9 o'clock and my whole world turns upside down, right? That's just the nature of what it is. But in essence, if I hadn't set up everything I had to set up and the world turned up, well, I've just amplified the stress of doing of everything else that's going on. So that's why I start at 5 a.m. and I do my stuff for open source workplace. Then I go through all the stuff that I do in my day job for NASDAQ. So I try to get ahead of that beforehand. And so for me, I know my most productive hours are in the morning. So that's when I sort of spend my time, energy, and effort. The afternoon is where I struggle. And
Yeah.
I openly tell people, I says, if you want my brain to work, don't focus or set meetings in the afternoon or late afternoon, because
Yeah.
for me, having, you know, if I'm up at 4 a.m. and it's 4 p.m. in the evening, you know, in the afternoon, for a lot of people who get up at 8 a.m., that's 8 p.m. Just to sort of put that in perspective. So by the time it gets to 4 p.m. in the afternoon, man, I'm done.
Yeah.
I'm done. And if I ever have an evening, you know, dinner, like work dinner or something, oh my goodness, I'm just fighting to stay awake. You know, but again, so it's the individual, right? We all know intuitively when we're the most productive, right? We all know when our brain just works. It's usually not after we've eaten. It's usually not late in the day. You're in a different situation, and you'll sort of explain to us now, you know, how that works for you and how you assess. But the most important thing at the moment is, especially the situation we're in, I think individuals have to know and families have to work out, okay, if I can't get all the work I need to do during the day because of other distractions, am I more productive in the morning? Am I more productive in the evening hours when it is the little bit more calm? And and trust me, in 2 or 3 hours of that focus time, you can get through a day's work. where you have no distractions and you can just get things out. You just can.
Yeah. So we talked about distractions, and that's something. When am I most productive? I found that the key factor for me is limiting distractions. So in the wee hours of the morning or late at night, or if I just have solitude, that's what catapults me forward. And that's for me. And I'm going to throw you a curveball here. I'm going to talk about, I think it's the title of the book is called When by Daniel Pink. And he talks about how everybody has circadian rhythms, but people that are early birds or night owls, they have certain rhythms they flow to. And he suggests that I'll put a link in the description to the book or something like that. But it's logical thinking does best in the morning. Then you have a slump where everybody gets tired. Everybody wants to take a nap. You know, it happens at work where you're just like, oh, is the day done yet? We've all been there. He suggests taking a nap during this time or having a nappuccino where you drink a little bit of coffee before you go to bed. So that way you rest for 10, 20 minutes. And as the coffee hits, you can catapult back to work. And then in the evening, your creativity hits. And that's where I've been after I read this and I was playing around with my schedule. One of the pros of working for myself and having a flexible schedule, I started doing my creative writing. I have a couple people I work with where I write scripts for, and I've started doing that in the evening, and it seems to go a lot smoother. I've saved my logical processes for the morning, and it takes less effort for me to dive right in. And just decreasing the amount of effort it takes for each task over the course of a day or over the course of a week really helps. But please be aware that if that doesn't sound like you, there are, it's like 20 to 25% of the population is flipped. So you're more creative in the morning, more logical in the evening. So that might be where you fall into if you're watching this and you're thinking, wait a minute, hold on a second. So for me, that's what I've been doing. So it's not just circadian rhythms, but it's also limiting those distractions. Right. But you said going into the office, and I found that my afternoons, when I'm on a regular day to night sleep schedule, my afternoons are a rodeo. Right. Anything can happen. Anything can go wrong. And that's what you're just putting out fires sometimes.
Yep.
But that has to do with communicating with people. So when you're working from home, you can feel isolated, especially if you don't get out and you work at home all the time. What's something that you do when you're working from home to keep in touch with people, or especially keep in touch with people in the office?
Yeah, we're in unique circumstances at the moment, right? And I think what we're experiencing is everything what those people like yourself who work from home all the time are currently going through, right? The biggest thing that I've found is the use of Zoom. So we use Zoom to do this. Zoom just allows video meetings to take place. So where previously we may have had phone calls, now we do video calls where everyone's able to see each other, you're able to see each other's faces. That just feeling attached and part of a team is really, really important, because some of the things, there'll be underlying things that, you know, you can't see or you can't feel because there is that distance and you don't get that face-to-face interaction with people and with the team. There'll be people at the moment who are really worried and concerned about their job in the long term, and they won't tell you, and they can't feel that comfort because they don't see you. So having that face-to-face is really, really good. Also, just having the team just see each other, talk to each other, because everyone, you know, is so isolated at the moment. And you know, be it simply, you know, using Facebook, using Twitter, using YouTube, whatever it is, to communicate, see, and interact with other people. I think it's so important, because over the next few weeks, we're going to see people going through a psychological shift in their head.
Yep.
And it's so important that constant face-to-face interaction, you get to see that. There's people who we work with that will get ill, and you want to be constantly there and ensure that they're fine. And the other thing is, if there's people who you work with, how you haven't spoken to, send them a text. You know, how you doing? Just thinking about you. It's the best thing in the world just to get that little, really simple 2-line text. How you doing? I've been thinking about you. Hope you're okay. You know what I mean? And it's just that little interaction that keeps everybody moving, and especially at these times.
Yeah. the feeling of normalcy when everything's on its head. To be able to say, oh, I still got to see, you know, Frank, Joe, Karen, whoever from the office. That was really nice. Oh, they look funny working at home, but it's something to talk about, right? And it keeps the team bonding. We're social creatures. Humans, we're not just supposed to speak to each other via email. We need body language. We need facial representation, language. Facial language? You know what I'm saying.
I know what you mean.
Facial cues.
Of course, yeah. Sorry, I don't mean to cut you off there, Alek. I just wanted to sort of jump in just because, like, you mentioned something that just made me smile, because one of the things that I've noticed, I'm sure everybody has, as people get on more and more video conferencing meetings with their colleagues, you get to see everybody's house, you get to see the photos, you get to see their backgrounds, and everyone has a right laugh. It's so funny. Everyone's playing with all the virtual backgrounds as well, you know. It's just really funny. But sorry, I just related to exactly what you were saying.
It's trending. People are having their dog or cat show up in their office chair when the meeting starts for a good laugh for everybody, right?
That's funny. I haven't seen that just yet, but that's funny.
No, oh, Steve, animals all over the world are going crazy because usually, you know, people are still getting dressed like they're going to work, which is a good habit. They're keeping the normalcy, they're keeping their routine, their morning routine. And then they don't leave, and the animals are going crazy. They're like, oh, you're going to stay home and play with me all day? And yeah, well, they don't. They have to go to work, but it's really interesting to see how.
So you just triggered another thing. I was out running this morning, and so I'm out running, and you see all these squirrels running around everywhere, and what's going through my head is like, those squirrels must be thinking, where is everybody?
I heard there's dolphins in the Italian canals now. They've moved up because there's no boat travels. Because Italy shut down. Animals are coming back in to investigate. Yeah. Steve, why are you running? You're supposed to be locked down.
Well, exactly. Part of that, Yeah. But, anyway, I interrupted you again. My apologies.
No, it's fine. But yeah, that's the normalcy, being able to see people. I know when I'm sitting here day in and day out, and this is the conversation, and it's rare that I do video chats with clients, especially clients that I have a good relationship with, because it's a quick email and then it just gets handled because we're in tandem. But I get dragged out on the weekends, except during now, to have social time with family, friends, etc.
No, it's really important. It's really important. Mm-hmm. But look, I think this is really important. I think these are really important tips for people to adhere, take on board. Just try and keep that consistent sleep, keep that morning routine, find yourself dedicated space, communicate with your team, just look after each other.
So speaking of looking after each other and communication, you mentioned shooting out a text and seeing how people are doing just to keep the conversation going, and who doesn't love getting a text? Right. What about bothering your boss? Just checking in. Is that a thing you should or shouldn't do? I guess maybe depends on the boss and your relationship, but to keep FaceTime with the higher ups.
It's a great question. I mean, I do, but I also do it to the team as well, right? So I'll shoot an email to the team. I'll shoot an email to my boss, just say how you doing, just checking in, because everyone's gone through a really tough time at the moment. Everyone is, they may be, locked in their own place. They may have been uprooted and moved somewhere else. They may not be in the environment that they normally live in. There's a whole variety of different things that are happening. I reach out to everybody. I do. I send, there's especially, there's a few older folks who have been so good to me over the years, and I just send them a simple text, just thinking about you. Send them a little picture of something, not of me, because who wants that? But
no, you're a sweetheart. Oh man.
Just shoot them a note and just say thinking about you. It's a beautiful thing to receive. It really is.
Yeah, for sure. Especially when you're locked down. I know what it's like, and your boss's boss. Mm-hmm. Your colleagues and coworkers, they're all in the same situation as you for the most part. Maybe, different scenarios, but we're all in this together, so we're human. Reach out to them. to go back, to flip it back over to productivity, the focus of the article, I do want to talk about the different methods people can try to keep themselves productive. And like I said, I found out that having no distractions catapults me into work. I didn't always know that. It wasn't until I tried working at times that no one was around, early morning, late night, things like this. And I found out that works really well for me. So much so that if I would have never found that out, that's one of the few things that I don't know if I'd still be doing what I do today, because of how hard it can be working from home, social distancing, right? Without any virus going around, you're just away from other people, trying to juggle so many things all at once, and the motivation to not get out of your PJs, right? Because you don't have to. It can really take a toll. So what's some things that you've experimented with, Steve, to increase your productivity? What's some things that maybe didn't work for you, but other people could try? Any tips, tricks?
So for me, the big one is exercise, but not exercise to the point, not to exhaustion, not like, I wouldn't say above 80% of whatever I feel I can do that day, or simply going for a walk, just being outside, just moving, getting the blood flow, just all of that, I find is a great way. So that's part of my morning routine. Is a little bit later. Usually it would be just before I go and get ready for work. I'll go and do some exercise, be it whatever. But and usually it's a short burst of exercise. But at the moment I can go out and run, so I go out and run. But it's important for me that I actually don't exert myself too much, because I find then it drains me by the time I come back to work. So I usually go to about 80% of whatever I feel that day. And then I'll sort of do walks during the course of the day. So that's the big one. Brain FM. I mean, anyone who talks to me knows how much I love Brain FM, and it's a free app. Yeah, there's a paid subscription as well, but it's a free thing. But those would be the two things. And then of course, my other thing is my cup of coffee.
Yeah, and we're actually gonna, for people who want to pay attention and follow along, we're gonna do a whole entire video on coffee coming up later this week.
It's
it's a subject near and dear to both of us.
For sure. So
Yeah.
what about you? What do you do?
So I want to piggyback off your exercise thing. I was watching another podcast, and they were explaining how they were talking about wrestlers, and how American wrestlers, they'll wrestle and they'll give it their all, and they'll go at it like it's life or death, and they really exert themselves once, twice, 3 times a week. Like, and they really they have a good match. And then they compared the American wrestling style. Now, this isn't everybody. This is just what I was listening to the Russian wrestling style, where they'll playful wrestle every day. Like, they'll never really exert themselves, because when it's time to exert yourself, you'll do it in the match, and you'll go at it. Just like you were talking about, you're not going to overexert yourself and kill yourself for work. What ends up happening is, for them, they just have so much more experience because they practice every day. So it's the incremental gains rather than once, twice, 3 times, and you really give it your all. So getting out and always exercising and being consistent with it, or any other habit you choose, can help increase productivity, consistency.
Yeah.
That's my big tip. Limit distractions and consistency. That's what I found.
Yeah, I mean, you think of the distractions at the moment, it's gonna be tough.
Sure. Oh, here's one for you. Don't work. It sounds counterintuitive, but you have to be able to, I know, you have to be able to take your time for you. Because right now I'm coming out of being bogged down, where I was overloaded with work. I was inundated, where I wouldn't have been able to leave the house during the virus anyway. I've been working nonstop. But it starts to drag on. And when you don't separate work and life, you can get burnt out, and it's a real thing. Even people that love their job, if they don't separate it and have time for them, people say, "Oh, you have a great job. How are you so upset?" Well, it could be because they haven't created distance from their job at the proper times or intervals.
Oh, it's sorry, excuse me. You're so right. For the last 12, 14 months for Open Source Workplace, doing that all the time, working at NASDAQ. I totally agree with you. I work 7 days a week, and I actually came to the point of almost exhaustion. But what I found, and the hardest thing, I have to find out what's the right level of work for me, is when I take a Saturday off, say I give myself permission to take a Saturday off, I find it so hard to work the Sunday. If I work Saturday, I'm fine, and then I can take the Sunday off and go into the Monday, because Monday I'm back on, be it open source workplace or be it with NASDAQ. But giving myself permission, to your point, to take that break, to allow my brain to, it's okay to not work right now,
Yeah.
is such an important thing. And trying to manage those exhaustion levels it's so important.
I've got a quote for you and everybody watching. It's by James Clear from the book Atomic Habits. And in the book, taking a day off is taking a day off. Taking 2 days off is the start of a bad habit. So you give yourself break time, right? But don't get in a bad cycle, because then you start a downward spiral. But you have to be, that's the point of either working from home, working for yourself. You need to be able to enjoy these things, right? They're perks. They can be. You should be able to enjoy them. But if you don't treat yourself fairly and properly, you won't enjoy them or your life at all. It's important.
Yeah, no, those are great things. So maybe in the comments below, people can sort of make reference to what are the things they do, what is the routines they have, how do they spend their time, how do they keep themselves productive, so that other people can share, because there's going to be other things that we haven't touched on here that other folks can note below.
Yeah, and it may be something we never thought of, right? And something that could catapult us forward.
Yep.
Please share, help everyone. Speaking of something else people love to share, music, their tastes in it. How does music play a role? Because when you're in the office, sometimes an office environment or a work environment, if you're not in an office, you can't have music, or you can, and it can help keep you going throughout the day, whether that be through headphones or actually having it through speakers. How does music play a role in working from home?
For me, it's I go back to Brain FM. That's where I go to. It's all music based. It's all beats. It all puts in the different mindsets, and it just changes your thoughtfulness, your brain, what your mind's able to work on. The brain waves, it just fluctuates and it just puts you into that focus zone. For me, that's my thing. And then obviously when I go running, it's a very different type of song.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
It's your workout mix or what have you.
Yeah.
Working from home is fantastic. I truly cherish the times I get to listen to music while I work, because if I'm editing audio or watching a video or taking notes on whatever, there's a lot of audio that's involved with me. So I have to be giving my full attention to whatever I'm doing. It's a blissful moment when I get to say, okay, well, I just have to, creatively write, or I get to read through an article and I can listen to my own music and really get in the zone. It's a huge motivator for me.
Yeah. Good.
It is. But the biggest motivator by far is coffee. Steve, skipping coffee, let's talk about coffee shops. Now, don't necessarily, if you're locked down, I know a lot of Starbucks and other places, Dunkin' Donuts, they're closing, or they're only keeping the drive-through open. But when things are back to normal, working in a coffee shop, does that help? Does that hurt?
Coffee shops are weird. Weird in the sense that they're noisy, they're bustling, there's hustle, there's people around. There are so many distractions, but for some reason, people are able to go into a coffee shop, get a cup of coffee, sit down, and focus. I don't know why. I don't know if it's the music they choose. I don't know if it's just the people. I don't know if it's the coffee. I don't know what it is, but there's something productive about coffee shops. And whenever you're in workplace, you try to replicate that in the office so that people can actually get into the same mindset as a coffee shop. But obviously, when you're working from home, getting yourself out of your environment to go to somewhere else to work can be a stimulus to allow you to focus beyond what you think you have the capacity or ability to focus in a certain day. And I think what I find anyway is, if I'm doing research, reading, note taking on something, sitting in a coffee shop for me is so easy to do.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
I've done it. I guess I've approached it a little bit differently. I've gone to a coffee shop with the intent to say, I have something to do, like editing audio or working on a script or whatever it is. And I just can't work where I am right now, whether it's noise level or I'm tired or I need to get out because I need some social human interaction, whatever it is. But I go to the coffee shop and I think to myself, okay, I'm here to do this. I don't actually want to make friends with these strangers, right? So it's like that office environment. Obviously, there's colleagues that you're more close with than strangers in a coffee shop. But for me, it's the drive to work, and then I get to go home. Or some people, just like you wear a nice fancy suit or a dress when you go out to like a dancing event or some sort of a fancier, whatever event it is, right? You wear appropriate attire because you want to be seen. Some people want to be seen working. Does that make any sense?
Yeah, no, I hear
That's
you.
not
Yeah,
me, but
yeah,
some people are like, I'm working on my spreadsheets, and but for them, it's a motivator to be like, I'm doing important work and I'm being seen do it. Like people love being acknowledged for their accomplishments in an office. Some people, not everybody, but being acknowledged and doing a great job. So it's along the same, little different, but it could be along the same vein as that.
yeah.
Um, at least those are the thoughts that come to my mind.
No, I agree. I agree. Yeah. Again, it's just, it's change is as good as vacation, right? It's not what they say. Change of environment.
Yeah,
Sometimes it does well.
for sure.
All right. Shall we wrap it up there?
I think so. That's how to stay productive when you're working from home. Be safe, stay healthy, wash your hands. 20 seconds, a full warm water and soap. 20 seconds, get those germs gone, so we can all go out and actually enjoy our lives again. But until we're stuck, while we're stuck here, we'll be right there with you. Tune in tomorrow. See our next video. Bye now.